Well, it's like everything else, you know, you have to look at where someone came from, and you know, my dad lived and died on a farm and ranch that his dad started. He served in the military as a tank commander. He was a pilot and a graduate of Texas A&M, married an incredibly strong Austin girl. He was quiet, he was measured, he was very well read. He literally read thousands of books. And he was cut from that cloth that said, you know, if I say it, then I mean it. And you never doubted where you stood with him. If you asked him what he thought, you better be ready, because he's going to tell you, and you might not agree with what he had to say, but you definitely knew exactly where you stood with him. And that's a very powerful way to live your life, and was a very good example for me. From my perspective, I'm 53. I've been doing this since I was just 15 years old. It just has always been what I do. It's then that I realized how fortunate I was to have the parents I had. It was definitely a different time back in the 70s and 80s. You know, I drove 120 miles round trip without a driver's license to take flying lessons, you know. And what kind of a parent allows for that, you know? And just after my 16th birthday, on July the 3rd, 1981, under the supervision of an instructor by the name of Bryan Rose, I soloed a brand new Cessna 152-2 in Lubbock, Texas, at then what was Town and Country Airport. It's Lubbock Executive now. And I flew off and on through high school. Knowing that a pilot needs to be educated, I worked really hard at Olton High School and was a solid BC student. So college applications didn't go so well, you know. So I did a semester at Spartan School of Aeronautics in 1983, and then I transferred over to Texas State Technical Institute's aviation program in Amarillo, Texas. It was a great program. Our airframe and power plant instructors were all World War II, Korea, and Vietnam veterans. It was really incredible. Their stories were simply unreal. But I received my A&P rating there, an associate's degree while I was there, and later went on to Wayland Baptist University. But TSTI, I mean, they had this guy there that would sub from time to time, and his name was J.V. Cannon. And I owe my life to that man. He was a World War II P-38 driver. Of course, he's long gone now. But he was my first mentor, and he actually cared, you know, what happened to me. So, but he demanded that I finish my pilot's license in a tailwheel. He was not one bit afraid of my little Cessna 140, and he made dang sure that I knew how to fly it. And emergency training consisted of the engine being shut off somewhere out in the middle of nowhere. He had to dead stick it down on some flat piece of ground that only he knew about already, but he wasn't worried about much. And my next mentor was a guy, Lyndall Askew. He's in his 70s now, still a very dear friend of mine. He taught me how things really get done in the cockpit, and he also taught me how to buy and sell airplanes. And I can't tell you how many times over the last 30 years that he would call and, you know, he'd say, hey, go to the bank and get some money because you need half of this airplane that I just found. And by the way, you need an instrument rating, or you need a multi-engine rating, or you whatever rating, you know. He could have easily owned them himself, but he kept pushing me, you know, into new ratings and just the higher level aircraft, you know. And then it just became a habit after that. Want a glider rating? Go buy a glider, you know. Go get it. Want to learn acro? Get you a Yak 55, you know. So after a while, it just became a habit. And then a couple years ago, a few of us FTC members were talking, and we suddenly realized that all the guys that have mentored us have either hung it up or are about to hang it up. And we're their replacements. We were sort of astonished. We've always been under the tutelage of them, and listening, not speaking, but the torch is being passed, as we speak, and it's a very sobering thought. We didn't realize we were qualified to be mentors. Flying, my flying. Well, I think the majority of the people around me, frankly, I don't think they understand this aviation thing. I'm not sure I understand it either. So, it's an obsession that has simply always been there since I was a very small child, and has driven me to become the consummate aviator. I think the person that has been the most understanding has been my wife. In 33 years of marriage, I don't think she's ever questioned the purchase of an airplane, autopilot, hangar, annual, GPS, fuel. Can you imagine? I think I caught a unicorn. Flying encapsulates so many wonderful things that allows one to truly live. There's not the knowledge, freedom, beauty, speed, horsepower, and adventure. It demands the mastery of sciences and arts. It simultaneously exploits and indulges all of the senses. For me, it truly reaches into our souls and adds a richness that few people just ever know. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff to learn. As it was said in Pearl Harbor, I believe it was. There's a lot of switches and stuff. But learning the information is necessary to fly. And it can feel like you're drinking from a fire hose. It's definitely a challenge. Especially every time you move to advance to a higher level aircraft, you absorb even more information, and not just mindless information, but information that explicitly lends itself to your survival. You've got to always remember that it's not a sim. Your butt's actually strapped to this thing, but if you continue absorbing and flying, you eventually become an expert of an exceptionally complex activity that is an incredibly satisfying and life-enriching experience. And then when you get into the higher performance, the high performance pistons, you're stepping up your game, and particularly when you move up into the flight levels and into the turbine and jet aircraft. These are high-flying, high-horsepower, mechanical beasts that must be absolutely mastered for you to survive. And flying one by yourself, all of your dreams, your education, efforts, victories, defeats, and emotions have delivered you to a place where you are indeed commanding an aircraft moving 400 knots at 41,000 feet. The sun is setting, and you can see the curvature of the earth. The feeling of confidence and accomplishment is overwhelming. And in that moment, you are the king of the sky and the best damn pilot on the planet, and that is why aviation is so captivating.
We're indicating 255 right now.
You have to be a serious band weenie to come up with an allegory like that. I couldn't remember the word. You have to be a serious band weenie to come up with an allegory like that.